Hello students, and welcome to our short-field takeoff maneuver execution video. Before we jump into the cockpit, let's quickly discuss the objective of this maneuver and some key factors that we'll be focusing on. The objective of a short-field takeoff is to get the airplane airborne in a short distance, as if we were taking off from a short runway, whether we really are or we're just simulating a short runway, and then to climb over obstacles that may be along our takeoff path, all while maintaining safe airspeeds and operational techniques. In this maneuver execution video, we will not be covering detailed aerodynamics, maneuver diagrams, common student errors, or the ACS standards. This video is to simply explain and demonstrate the execution of the maneuver and will vary based on the aircraft you are flying, obviously. To see all of the additional details we just mentioned and to study this lesson's full-length presentation, podcast, diagrams, flashcards, lesson quiz, and more, look up the short field takeoff lesson on our website, wificfi.com. Lastly, before we jump into the cockpit, there are a couple key factors that we need to cover regarding this maneuver, and you'll notice these in the video. We just want to point them out before we head out to the airplane. First, you'll notice that we're going to be utilizing all available runways. Since we will be simulating that we're taking off from a shorter runway, we don't want to have any runway behind us, right? Runway behind us is pointless, so we want to have as much pavement in front of us as possible. The second thing is that we'll be taking off with increased flap settings for shorter takeoff distance. We'll be holding the brakes once we're on the runway and we're lined up with centerline. We'll be holding the brakes while we increase our power to full. That way, when we release the brakes, we'll have full power immediately to take us down the runway. We'll have a slightly lower rotation speed. We're going to have a VR of 50 knots. If you noticed in our normal takeoff video, we had a rotation speed of 55. Today, we're going to be using 50. That's because our initial climb is going to be at VX to clear obstacles, and VX for today's example is 56 knots. So we're going to be rotating at 50, climbing at that VX of 56 knots. Once we're clear of the obstacles, we're going to reduce our angle of attack and speed up to VY. VY for today's example is 74 knots. Once we are then at a safe altitude and airspeed, we'll retract the flaps, continue our climb at VY until we are ready to transition to our cruise climb, where we'll get better forward visibility and engine cooling, and lastly we'll complete the after takeoff checklist. So that's all the key factors. Let's head out to the airplane and execute this maneuver. Alright, now we are here at our aircraft. I want to show you a couple things, kind of explain where we're at in the process before we do this short field takeoff, and kind of show you guys how we have the airplane set up. So we've obviously, since we're sitting on the runway, as you can see, lined up with centerline, we have obviously already done our before takeoff checklist. We've done our run-up checklist. We would have done all those things, gotten our clearance from ATC, or announced our intentions on CTAF before rolling on to our runway here. So we've rolled onto the runway. One thing I want you to notice that we've done here is we are using all available runway for this short field takeoff. Okay, because we are simulating that it's a short field, we don't want to leave any pavement behind us. We want as much runway and as much pavement in front of us as possible. Okay, don't taxi halfway down the runway and then do your takeoff. All right, remember, as much pavement as you want, as you can have in front of you. So we've taxied all the way to the back end of the runway, so we have as much runway in front of us, as much pavement in front of us as we possibly could. And you can also see that we have our flaps set at 10. We'll hop in the cockpit and show you that too. That is going to shorten our takeoff distance and increase our climb rate once we get off the runway. So let's go up inside the aircraft now, show you a couple things that we've got set up here. If you saw our normal takeoff and climb video, you know that we love to use bugs whenever you've got them. So if you got a heading bug or an altitude bug, you can see that we have set our heading bug up with our runway and our altitude bug at that 2,500 feet. We're going to say that we're going to be climbing up initially to 2,500 feet today. Okay, we've got our lights on, we've got our mixture set. As you can see down here, we have got our flap set for 10. So I think the only other thing that we need to do is make sure our trim is set and ready for takeoff. And we're basically ready to go. So let's go ahead and execute this maneuver, and we'll take you through here step by step. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to hold the brakes of the aircraft, and we're going to increase our throttle nice and smoothly all the way to full power. Okay. When we do that, we're going to go ahead and pop over here and make sure we see that all of our instruments are in the green. That lets us know that we are safe for our takeoff. So everything's in the green. We are ready to go. At this point, we're going to go ahead and release our brakes, and we're going to start rolling down the runway using our rudder pedals to maintain centerline and using any wind correction that we may need. We've got calm winds today, so we don't need it today. We're looking at our airspeed tape. We can see it's moving, so we're going to say airspeed alive, and then we're going to rotate at 50 and attempt to climb out at 56. So there's our 50, and we're going to be pitching up for our VX, getting up here to our VX to climb over our obstacles, whatever obstacles may be in front of us on this short runway. So I'm trimming back even a little bit more here, so you guys can see, just using those couple simple techniques, how fast we got off the runway and how fast we are gaining altitude, right? We got off the runway in a couple hundred feet, and now we're already a couple hundred feet up in the air, clearing our obstacles, climbing at that VX speed. Alright, now that we are clear of our obstacles, what we can do is we can go ahead and trim the nose down a little bit. Let's start heading for that best rate of climb, which is 74. Kind of heading back over to my heading bug here, and I'm going to start trimming the aircraft for that VY of 74 for the rest of our climb out here. Getting to that VY speed, we have plenty of altitude. We're feeling good and safe. I am going to go ahead and show you. We'll retract our flaps there. Go ahead and bring those guys up and retrim our aircraft for that 74. Now again, there's no hard set rule on when you want to, just as long as you're clear of obstacles, but there's no hard set rule on when you want to transition to your cruise climb. So we'll just go ahead and do that now. The cruise climb is going to give you better forward visibility because we're going to be lowering the nose a little bit, and we're going to get better engine cooling since we're going to be having faster airflow coming in through the inlets. So we'll go ahead and trim this nose down. We're going to start our cruise climb at 85, so we'll go ahead and trim down here just a little bit, get a little better forward visibility on the aircraft, and you can kind of see how that's working out here for us. We'll show you trimming down just a touch, nice and easy, going for that 85 or so. And now we're all trimmed out for our cruise climb, and last thing we would have to do is you could get out your checklist and perform your after takeoff checklist. That would include things such as maybe resetting the mixture, lights, flaps, checking your flight plan and your route, and those different kinds of things. But other than that, guys, that is it for this here maneuver, short field takeoff and climb. So thank you for joining us. You can see the airport there that we just left. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you on our next lesson coming up soon.